Today I have with me Christa Soleyn, a clinical psychologist, and she has graciously accepted our invitation to do an interview. Hi, Christa.
Hi, Kobie. How are you doing?
I can't complain. I'm very happy to have you here. Just quickly, as we start our interview, we've acknowledged that we are in a 24-hour shutdown and we've been told to stay at home. But I want to ask you the question as it relates to some home situations that may
Mhm.
not be the best. We may have some persons who are in volatile situations or some siblings that don't get along. What would be your advice as a psychologist to those persons who may not have the best home situation?
Okay, well, I mean, this question can be a little difficult, but that's what makes you a good reporter, right? Asking the hard questions. The thing about it, first and foremost, if you're in a volatile situation, and I'm speaking specifically about abuse and physical abuse and sexual abuse, one of the main things that I want to hit home is the use of the hotlines. I am very happy to see the ministries and other agencies opening up hotlines, making it accessible for persons to call. Now, in regular circumstances, it is hard to even grapple with abuse. And the Caribbean has been plagued, although we try to ignore it, we've been plagued with issues of abuse before. And now we do not have the space to leave and go anywhere. We're stuck with the abuser and really who is a family member. And so that presents a very hard situation. So the first thing to ring home is the hotline, to call the hotline. Do not be afraid to call the hotline. The next thing too is just volatile home situations. We're not living in a utopia where we feel like everybody gets along. And then now again, for 24 hours, we're all together. So one of the important things to really consider is finding a space, and I'm going to say it kind of with the air quotes, a safe space. And that is a space that you have designated that I'm going to go to when I think I'm going to lose my cool. And just recognizing as a family that we can't afford to have a big blow up. And it takes kind of one level headed person to say, you know what, I'm not doing this right now. Easier said than done, of course. But if you have a space that you say, listen, I'm going to go into this space and I'm going to calm myself. And everybody has different things that they can do. So whether it is to play a game, like the Candy Crush or whatever it is, even those games also kind of help you get lost. The addictive games here may help. It could be journaling as well, and I'm a big supporter of journaling, adult coloring. Find something that you can do that kind of takes you to a different space as much as you can. Now, I'm saying it's easier said than done, but my advice is always to try. It doesn't work, try something else. But just know that this is a situation where your mental health is at risk, and you really have to try to find ways to help. So even the suggestions online to just try it. And again, this is for the volatile home situations where the siblings aren't getting along. But with abuse, to repeat, for sure, the hotline. Another thing too is we still have to be our brother's keeper. So if you are aware that there's a couple maybe having quarrels a lot, or there may be, some issue going on, make sure to call and comfort your friend. All right. Now, abusive situations have different dynamics. Marriages have different dynamics, or relationships have, all these things that we don't necessarily see. And so it's still important to just reach out and provide, some social support to your friends also. The next thing too is, and I know it's a little controversial, but it wouldn't be me if I didn't say it. There's help also for people who are the abusers in the situation. And really and truly, Kobie, sometimes it is the inability to cope with emotions. And when you're in a 24-hour lockdown and you have difficulty coping with emotions, it's going to be worse as well. And so I also want to encourage persons who know that they are having difficulty managing their tempers and you want to get better, to call and to reach out. Even if I don't know if the hotlines will take, or even if they're going to refer, certainly My Facebook page has been open to anybody who needs help, but you have to reach out. This is not the time for abuse. This is not the time to, to really not have your emotions in check, because it's difficult for everybody despite whatever we're going through.
And in terms now, you mentioned emotions running high. Um, but for other persons now who may not be accustomed to a 24-hour lockdown, they may be feeling anxious. Their emotions also may be running high. What advice would you give to people in general who may be anxious at this time at home, not knowing when it will end? There's job insecurity and all of those other factors that they have to worry about in terms of paying bills and mortgages. What do you say to those people who are generally anxious now?
Yes, I mean, the truth is, and it sounds easy for a psychologist to say, but it's proven. Sometimes what we need to monitor is our perception of an issue, and that is not to say the issue is going to go away, but we need to take check of ourselves before we lose control. Now, what is happening, Kobie, is something that nobody has experienced before. And if I had to put a name to it, is this thing, the Harvard Business Review actually brought out an article, and it says that discomfort you feel is grief. And the first thing is to recognize what you're feeling. And there's this concept of anticipatory grief. And this is this loss of something you can't put your hands on, the loss of connections with others, the loss of security, whether it's job security or financial security. And when that gets uncontrollable, you end up with the anxiety, which is the physical symptoms. That's the tummy aches and the headaches and the dizziness and all these thoughts that, come into our mind. And, we're wrestling with an invisible demon. We're wrestling with something we can't put our hands on. As somebody told me recently, it's not something that I could hold on to and strangle. And so that's very scary. And one thing to note is that your emotions, they're not wrong. So don't feel guilty for being scared. To be honest, we are all very scared. The advice I can give, one of the main things that I've been saying, especially in the webinars, would be watch how we give power to the negativity. We acknowledge negativity, it's there, but we are not going to serve that negativity. What we're going to surrender or serve is the positive. So even in our thinking, we may say, oh my goodness, this is the worst thing to ever happen. I don't know where the end is going to come. And we just dwell there. And one of the things to do is to start to change how we talk about it. So I don't know when this is going to end. I can't put a date to it, but I'm going to follow the guidelines. I'm going to do what I have to do, and I'm going to use this time to do ... And that ... is what we call putting our anxiety into action. And, it may be housework, it may be cooking a meal, maybe learning a new skill. And people think that learning a new skill is something, it has to be big. It could be sewing a button onto a shirt. And I'll confess, I don't know how to sew. So I'm going to use some time to learn how to do that. The other thing too is the challenges that are online. They are actually very helpful, and they are
Rush challenge and those kind of.
And we may think it's useless time, but what it's doing, it's trying to bring a normalcy to life now. And doing the challenges could be helpful. It takes your mind off of what's going on as well. So you're filling your time with new things. Use the time to exercise as well. And there's no pressure into, getting a degree during this time or a certificate. Take it slow, because it's going to be different for everyone. But the main message here is try your best to turn or reframe the negativity into positivity, and also find tasks that are suitable for you, things that you would like to do. Do things that, as I said, it could be simple or it could be extravagant. You could decide to plant something if you want, but find something that, is for you, and make the time count in whatever way that means, and
there are some home situations as well too, where you may have people living at home by themselves, and they're in a general state of loneliness. You may have some elderly people or some younger people as well too. How have you been finding that these different groups have been coping?
Well, listen, the loneliness is real, and it's nothing that we can ignore. Now, the reality for somebody who's younger or somebody who can, lose themselves in the internet is different for somebody who's much older. So I'll start with the younger ones. It's really important to still be connected. And even if it's a WhatsApp call with your friends, WhatsApp call with your parents or someone, it's important to still stay connected as much as you can. Now, what I've also found, as I said, I did the webinar and I had a lot of single people. It was a free webinar for anybody. And in so many webinars, we have people from Jamaica, we have in another one, people from Grenada. And it was an opportunity to meet new people. And there's a virtual world out there that we can explore safely. And through the webinars, there are challenges that they're doing every day. I think today's challenge is actually to stay connected. You're supposed to find somebody that makes them laugh and talk to that person. But we post in the chat, we check up on each other. So those virtual worlds, it's good to take advantage of them to also help. And then a little alone time is good too. So you're not doing it all the time, but use the time to journal, use the time to reevaluate some of your goals, knowing that this is not going to last forever. And so, it may be even creating a routine while, you're by yourself, creating a routine. And this is for anybody really, because creating a routine helps. Because, if we weren't, well, some people are working, or if we, don't watch ourselves, 3 days would go and we wouldn't have a shower. Sometimes we don't even know what day it is. So creating the routine as well helps. Now, the older ones, it is a little different because for some people, church was the social group. Liming and playing dominoes was the social group. Going to
community.
Queue in the community. And so we don't have that anymore. And they may not have access to the virtual world. But the same applies in the sense of channeling that energy into another activity. And so, the advice would be to really try to use your time to maybe learn something new or to do a particular task. But calling is very important, just checking up. Now, there are people that are very lonely, and it's our responsibility as a community to call to see if they're okay, to shout across to the lady next door and, ask, are you okay? Whatever little that you can do. So it's also very much a community responsibility to look out for our elderly. But what I will say though, Kobie, is that I think the older ones, they're getting through better than us because I've been calling my aunt and I'm like, are you okay? You're alone. Is everything fine? And she's like, no, I went in the garden. I'm working for the day. Like, they know how to keep active. She was telling me she's looking for buttons on any clothes she has that needs sewing on. She's using the time. I don't know where she's finding this time. But
I guess that goes back to your earlier point about perspective.
It's true. It's very true. She's telling me she's keeping busy. And the real thing is our generation is a quick generation. We're the microwave generation. They know how to do activities. They know how, in a heartbeat, they'll go and plant something. They can find lots of activities to do. Is us that I'm worried about, because there's only so much Netflix that we can watch, and even my mother too. I was really worried about her. And she said, I haven't seen you and I miss you. And I was like, okay, I'll teach you how to video call. Now, don't mind it took 15 to 20 minutes to explain the front and the back camera, but it was fun because we got to connect as well. And I was laughing in the process, but she was able to do it and she's able to learn new things. And I'm not saying everybody needs to be tech savvy, but you'll find something that really works for you. So, we need to use the time as much as possible. We acknowledge the negativity, and it's okay to acknowledge your emotions. I don't want anybody to feel they need to hide it. If you're sad, it's okay that you're sad. But then after a period of time, we want to get ourselves into more activities and into kind of reframing how we see things, knowing that this is not going to be forever. So, even with families too, find the time within your family unit to learn from each other. Let your children teach you something. You can teach them something from your childhood as well. But it is important that we find something to do that we want to do. And I keep stressing that because there's this pressure that I need to earn a new degree in this time, or I need to do something, big and wonderful. But it's those small things that are personal to you that will help you through this process.
Well, thank you so much, Christa, for all of that information. It was really enlightening to me, and I'm pretty sure that to our viewers as well, they would take some tips from it in order to maintain a good mental health during this time. So thank you so much again, Christa.
Thank you so much, Kobie, for inviting me, and you keep up the good work as well.
Thank you.